We've all seen them, those experiences that stop us in our tracks, the moments that flood our feeds, shift culture, and bring people together. I'm Asia Bradley Kemp, and I've helped generate millions in revenue and billions of impressions by creating scroll-stopping moments for some of your favorite brands and celebrities. This is Making the Moment, the podcast that brings you the untold stories, unfiltered insights, and big ideas from the architects behind the moments that matter. In each episode, I'll show you how to design experiences that not only captivate audiences, but also drive tangible value for your organization. Whether you're looking to build buzz, boost loyalty, or drive revenue, I want to help you design customer experiences that truly make an impact. This is for the moment makers and the culture creators. Welcome to Making the Moment. Hey, moment makers. Today, we are diving into a world where slime meets science, creativity meets commerce, and joy is more than just a feeling. It's a business model. We're joined by the brilliant and endlessly creative Karen Robinowitz, the co-founder and co-CEO of Sloomoo Institute. It's the wildly popular immersive slime experience that has redefined play and exclusivity and has captivated audiences across the United States. Before she was slinging slime and spreading smiles, Karen was shaping the influencer marketing landscape as the co-founder of Digital Brand Architects, the first ever talent management agency dedicated to digital influencers. She's been a journalist, an author, and an entrepreneur. Karen, welcome to Making the Moment.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you and reconnect because we've been through so many iterations of our careers together.
Yes. So many of those your previous lives, our paths have intersected. As I was saying to you before we started, I have just been so inspired as an entrepreneur, seeing this current iteration of your journey and what you've been able to build. And we're going to get into so much. But I wanted to start in the present, in the thick of the slime, so to speak. Some will know what Sloomoo is, some will not. So when you walk into a Sloomoo location today, what is the very first thing that you feel?
Joy. Our mission is delivering joy. So you walk in and you're greeted with incredible, bold color. Every ounce of our space has been thoughtfully curated. Color comes from color therapy. The journey of what you go through in the experience is all about, how are you triggering moods and lifting them or calming, lift, calm, inspire, trigger, create. And when you are in a place where there are literally hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds, I'm taking out my slime right now, of gallons of this slime, people literally lose their minds. They lose their minds because they've never seen that much of it. And then it is about just diving in.
Yeah. How did that come to be? Because it's so interesting that, Sloomoo is based on this, on joy. And in Conversate Collective, my experiential agency, we say our purpose is to create inclusive experiences that leave people feeling seen and filled with joy. Joy is a driver for us. So how did you come to that moment where joy is the center of it?
I came to this, to be honest, through depression. I was in a very, very dark place with a lot of pain, in never ending grief and mourning and loss. And I didn't think I would ever come out. And I was kind of in a shell for about a good year and a half. And one day my friend came by with her then 10-year-old. Her daughter happened to have slime with her. And it wasn't store-bought slime. It was handmade. And I knew there was this cultural zeitgeist anyway, as somebody who consumes culture and content like a 12-year-old. I knew there was a thing in the world. And I said to her, I want to see her slime. And when I sat on the floor with her, just thinking I'd have a minute squeezing her slime and leaving, I was so enthralled that 4 hours went by. And I realized during that time, I had forgotten about my pain. It was gone. And in fact, I didn't just stay on the floor with her. At one point, we were drizzling slime from the roof of my building to see how far it can stretch. I mean, I was 7 again. Yeah. And I never thought I would see the version of me who was so free and and innocent and playful again. So when I was greeted with that, I said, this, if this did it to me, I need more. And that is really the mission of delivering that feeling. And I don't believe you can deliver that feeling without inclusion,
Mm,
without welcoming everybody, without the sort of innocence that people have when they are children and they can sit in a room with other children. Nobody has to be from the same country. Nobody has to speak the
mm,
same language. And yet
mm,
they can all play and communicate through their actions, through their emotions, through their smiles. And that's what slime is. I look at it as this weird, great equalizer because
mm,
when you are stretching and playing, it doesn't matter what you look like.
mm,
You're actually not pretty when you're playing with slime. It doesn't matter if you have a handbag or not. It doesn't matter what your political beliefs are. It doesn't
mm.
matter where you come from. It matters that you're squeezing and stretching and looking and you're in awe with those around you.
Like this came from something personal to you. You've been able to translate that in a way that so many people connect with. But then the other thing, the inclusivity piece, I think is really important as well, because I remember going to the New York location, and one of the things that stood out to me was just the diversity of the staff to begin with. Like I was surprised to see it, especially in a Soho neighborhood. Can you talk about, the intention behind that and the cultural, why, cultural understanding, I've heard you call it, is so important?
All of that can only stem from the people who create the company. And as a human being, I have I'm always the person who I look to who somebody is to connect, not what what they might be on the outside. It's what's on the inside, right? Our outsides are shells.
Mm,
It's our souls are who we are. And I don't somebody's shell, it doesn't matter what color they are, it doesn't matter what size they are, it doesn't matter if they're missing a piece of their shell. Like it's who they are inside of that shell that I always seek to connect with. And I think it's probably because, and it wasn't done on purpose, but I went to a school growing up from fourth grade on that was so diverse
Where'd you
that
grow up?
I grew up in New Jersey. I went to a school where my friends were Indian, they were Black, they were Chinese, they were Buddhist, they were Muslim, I was the Jewish one. Like
Mhm,
we all, and it was such a small school. There were only 50 kids in my grade, 500 kids in the
mm,
whole school. So imagine that times all of the grades. Like everyone I knew was different.
mhm,
And I remember then going to sleepaway camp where everybody had my exact same background in a way, right? They were 98% Jewish
mhm,
girls from the Northeast.
mhm,
And I had such a different friendships. And it wasn't, I don't want to call one, I'm still friends with a lot of the people I went to camp with and a lot of the people I went to high school with.
mhm, mhm,
But I think what I realized, and I didn't realize it until I was in college. One day I was in college, I went to Emory. It's, it was very segregated.
mm,
And I remember freshman year sitting at the lunch table being like, I don't understand why everybody is apart.
mm,
Why is one group of people who may all be Indian sitting over here, and one group of people who are all Asian are sitting over here, and one group of people who are Black are sitting over here, and one group of people who were Jewish were sitting over here. I was like, why? I don't understand
mhm.
that. And I felt a real longing and sadness in college
Wait,
because
you said you went to Emory
I went to
here
Emory.
in Atlanta? Okay, got it.
And it was and I really was like, how do I get out of this? Like, how do I take a piece of everybody, because that's what fulfills me as a human being,
Yeah.
right? I know my point of view. The light world is not my point of view. The
Mhm,
world comes together when I see what everyone's point of view is. So
mhm.
I've always been somebody who strives to hear what other people see and think, and
Yeah,
how do we all blend to make
yeah,
it one.
yeah.
And so to me, it's like, I don't need a DEI policy to think about
Mhm.
inclusion. I'm going to think
Yes.
about it because that's who I am as a human. That's who my business
Mhm,
partner is as a human. And my business partner has a daughter who has a rare genetic syndrome. And
Mm,
it's, it's called Angelman syndrome. She is an incredible, beautiful human who is really happy that is a side effect or symptom of her syndrome.
wow.
But on the other side of her syndrome, she is nonverbal. She is not able to feed herself. She's not able to go to the bathroom alone. She doesn't get dressed on her own.
Mm,
She can walk and she can see things, and she loves dancing and she laughs a lot. But I've seen a world now through the eyes of somebody who has a lot of limitations.
mm,
And yet I went to the Barbie movie with her and she was laughing at all the same jokes I was laughing at, but
wow.
like a beat before me. And I was really paying attention and I was like, oh my God, she really sees it and gets
That's
it.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
And having a partner who has introduced me to somebody who sees the world and processes things differently has having a partner who celebrates that and, and being a part of it is so beautiful that that's part of what we want to bring to others is
Mhm,
everyone in the world. When you look at the two things that we have both faced,
mhm,
mine coming out of mental health and
mhm,
hers coming out of neurodiversity, physical limitations, and diversity, everyone can relate to one of us. And so when we bring both of our missions into our business, and mine is like, I want to deliver joy, I want people to have a place where like this can give them escape. And she's coming from a place of, I want people who might think and process differently to be seen. And obviously, as a human being, I'm that way. And as a human being, she supports what I'm about also.
mhm,
Our whole world is built around
mhm.
that mission. And we don't have to think about it and say, do we have representation? Do we have inclusion?
Are we
It's
checking
there.
boxes? Yeah. Mhm,
I think if you gave us the list of boxes that we quote unquote check
mhm.
and said build the business around it, I never could have done it.
Right.
This is all just like naturally part of us. So I think if somebody is saying in the world, like we're canceling a DEI policy, does that mean they're canceling being inclusive? Could they not have a policy but still be equally inclusive?
Mhm,
Like
mhm, mhm.
it's because it's who you are or not.
Right.
And I wouldn't want to be inclusive because a policy was making me do it. I want to be that. Otherwise, it's not natural. I don't believe anything is good without different points of view. Nothing in the world is good without different points of view.
Yeah. I love that. Oh, you said so much. And it actually warms my heart because you don't get to speak to many business owners where that is baked into their DNA. I have to shout out and give props to where we're from. You know, you grew up in New Jersey, I grew up in New York. And I'm so grateful for having that experience because, like you, my elementary school looked like the United Nations, so to speak. We had everybody, my friends were everyone. And so my own world is the same. Like I can't comprehend, being in a world in a workplace, in a friend group, in a society where I'm not engaging with people and enjoying being around people of all different backgrounds and experiences. What I love even more, listening to Sarah's story, I between here and the research that I was doing, I need to talk to her because her story is amazing, and what she's doing. There has been a lot around a neurodiverse workforce and being able to provide opportunities with people that have those limitations. What does that look like in actuality and reality, behind the scenes for you guys?
So I think there's many levels of it, and there's many levels of what we would call neurodiversity. So
Mhm.
like as I'm like super 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 ADHD, but I don't identify as neurodiverse. So when we talk about neurodiversity, we're really talking about people who need job coaches to
Mhm.
get through their days.
Mhm.
And what's really fascinating is they all have different ways of processing and learning and participating in the world. And we have to really like talk to their job coaches. So here's a really good example. We have somebody who works with us, and if I was carrying something really heavy and I walked by him, he wouldn't help me, not because he doesn't think about it. It's not how his
Mm.
brain works. So if I said, "Hey, will you please help me?" he would say yes, but he would still stay there doing his other thing. I
Oh.
have to say to him, and I learned this from his job coach, "Hey," not even ask him, "Hey, help me carry this chair right now."
Mm.
And when I heard that, I was like, that sounds really bossy.
Right,
I don't
right.
anybody that way. And his job coach was like, that's actually the way he's going to understand and help you. He doesn't see it
Mm.
that way.
Mm.
So I then can be carrying it and walk by him and I'm like, hey, help me carry this chair right now. And like, I might never talk to you that way.
Mm.
And I would never talk to somebody. I would ask, but like, he has to be told.
Right.
And you can't then go to the next person and think the same thing will work. So part of it is understanding from job coaches
Mm.
how each person will respond. And
Mm.
then we have to empower general managers who are, let's say, working in the experience
Mhm.
or the director or whomever the person that they report to say, this is how you support this person. And to be honest, having that, and it's a lot for somebody maybe to hold, but having that difference that's life,
Yeah.
right? We all go through different things.
Mm.
And not everybody has the facility to say, I don't understand you unless you say it like this,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? A neurotypical person may, but a neurodiverse person may not. And what I believe this does is it makes everybody more accepting of other people.
Yep.
It makes everybody more patient. I remember I was once on a conference call and somebody who is neurodiverse was trying to order food and was having some struggles. And she kept coming up to me and asking, and if it was like my brother, I would be like, pointing to my phone and giving him this look of like, how dare you? And with her, I had to say to the person I was on the phone with,
Mm.
please hold on. I need to support someone for a second. And I like came over and was like, what do you need? And I did it. And then I went back to my phone and I was like, well, you can do both.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I explained to the person on the phone, like I'm supporting somebody we work with who processes a little differently.
Mm.
And if that person doesn't understand it, I kind of don't want to be on the phone with them,
Right, right, right.
right? Like that's the human experience. And we have so
Mm.
many families who come in who might have a neurodiverse child, sibling, cousin, somebody.
Mm.
And when they see those faces reflected back at them, they know
Mhm.
it's a place where they're welcome. And the
Mhm.
most amazing thing, and one of the best stories I have from being in this experience of Sloomoo, is our first opening day in Houston. The person at the door for an hour and a half before we opened was a little girl with Down syndrome.
Wow.
And she was going through the experience, but then at one point she looked over at a couple of people and then she said it registered for her. And she said to her mom, Mom, look, I can get a job here one day. And
Wow.
I was just in like
Mhm.
tears because
Mhm.
she may be used to hearing or seeing that she can't. And
Can't.
of
Mhm.
course she can.
Mhm.
And I think it's really important that it teaches everyone around us patience. We also work with a nonprofit called Culture City. They come in and there's training for everybody who works for us, um, who are at the experience, so that if somebody comes in who might be much more sensory sensitive
Mm.
or reacts certain ways because of being neurodiverse, we have kits like here are some earphones, or do you need a quiet space, or do you need a fidget toy, or do you need to come back at a time when we're less busy because we have sensory hours? And Saturday at noon is wild and loud and not built for those who are
Yeah.
more sensitive.
Yeah.
So it's, and sometimes you have to train people over and over and over and over and over,
Mhm.
but we believe
Mhm.
in the mission and it's never not going to be part of our mission.
I love that. That's absolutely amazing, and so many things that our audience can take away to apply to their own experiences that they're creating. Even the one-offs. There's so many lessons there.
Oh, I want to share one more thing. So we're building a new experience that will launch in August, a new interaction. And when we were looking at the first drawings with the architecture team, not our immediate architects, but like a group of architectural artists that we're working with to fabricate something.
Mhm.
And the first thing we all said was, can a wheelchair go through that and navigate it fully? If it
Mm.
can't, we start over. And it's, while our space is ADA compliant, we also look at every individual moment to
Experience.
say,
Yeah.
how will that like lip on the floor be too high for a wheelchair? Like,
Mm.
what if, you know, and what if somebody is hearing impaired? Like, do we start? I mean, we're not doing it yet, but it is a conversation we're having where do we train our whole staff in ASL so that if
Wow.
somebody comes in, like they can actually be seen and communicate. I can only do cool slime in ASL. It's something I want to learn,
Yeah.
just being inspired by some of our guests.
Yeah.
And last night I was at an event and I was listening to a man speak. He's blind and he works in technology to make things that would be accessible to the blind. And then I
Mm.
think back about, well, our experience is accessible, like you're touching everything and you're feeling everything. And that's amazing for somebody who has some vision
Mhm.
limitations or struggles.
Mhm.
But how else are we doing it? Like, where can I be better? Because we're not, no one's perfect.
Mhm.
But these are the things that kind of keep us up at night and they're really important to us.
Yeah, that's amazing because a lot of people aren't thinking about that. How did you implement all of these different support systems for your neurodiverse staff? Was it, through Sarah's experience and she kind of just like gave suggestions, we need to do this, we need to do that, or did you get some formal guidance?
A little bit of both. It
Mm.
started with, you know, Sarah saying, let's start with one person,
Mm.
just one. And let's see the impact this one person has on people, which is huge. And then as we said we want to grow it, like all of our cities that we're in, we work with a nonprofit that provides scaffolding and staffing for those who are neurodiverse. And then that nonprofit team will come in and look at our space. And one challenge that we actually have is that our spaces can get really loud. You
Hmm.
know, you put
It's
a
crazy.
room like hundreds of gallons of slime and just all the other things that you can do in our world, and people are screaming and they're excited and they're yelling and they lose it a little, even the adults.
Hmm.
Actually more so the adults sometimes.
I was fighting with my mother over slime when we went. I was like, lady.
See? We're like, sorry sir, you can't throw that at the ceiling, and it's like some 56-year-old, man. Some of the nonprofits were like, I actually think that it's going to be hard for us to find somebody who will work at the experience because it's loud. So
Mm.
we need somebody who is okay with noise. We also have a back of house, right? Which is our quote unquote kitchen where we make all the slime. And that is a place where it might be easier to staff.
Mhm.
However, it's equally important for me that it doesn't feel like it's just back of house.
Right.
They're not there because they're hidden. They're
Hmm.
there because it might be quieter.
Hmm.
But there are people who welcome the energy.
Yeah.
And so you have to find the right person, because if somebody is really sound sensitive and has a hard time with a lot of people, then there has to, like, that's not working at Lake Sloomoo where people are running across 500 gallons of slime.
Right.
So part of it is also understanding how each person operates and where they're great and
Right.
where they need things to be different, and ensuring that we're meeting those accommodations.
Yeah. And that's in a lot of work environments, right? You got to put people where it plays to their strength.
Yeah. So it's no different. And
Mhm.
I think the greatest thing is that, and we've had guests who've come in and complained and said, it seemed like somebody on that staff was stoned. And we're like, I'm sorry, they're neurodiverse. Like, they're not processing the way you're processing. And that's a hard conversation to have, because you don't want to literally point out somebody else's blinders in a way that's wrong, but you don't want them deciding who somebody is because they might be a little different.
Yeah, you can see both sides of it. I would kind of feel the same if I walked into a place with my child and felt that one of the people participating or in charge of the experience was not up to the job. could you share the nonprofit that you guys work with that supports?
So there's one that we work with across all of our locations called Culture City. It's spelled with a K, Kulture.
Mhm.
They provide us with training and for our staff to understand guests and sensory kits. So if a guest comes in and it might be louder than they expect, or they might have scent sensitivities because our slime is scented, we have like nose plugs and earphones and quiet spaces, and so we know to get them the Culture City bag. But in Houston, we have a very specific nonprofit that we work with where they bring they are helping us staff it, and then when they do that they also help with the training.
Mm,
And then there are some people that we work with who literally have their own individual job coaches, that
got it.
some people that like they're in a lucky enough position that their parents are able to give them, and we work with them. There's a woman who comes in with her job coach, and her job coach works alongside her.
Okay.
Not everyone has it at that level.
Right.
But what's it's amazing is that like it's meaningful employment, and it's
Yeah.
they're a part of something, and they're opening eyes to their coworkers also.
And is that in terms of costs, is that like a huge investment for you guys financially to be able to support, this different levels of staff and especially the ones that might need a job coach because that's essentially two people.
Yeah, sometimes it depends on where it's coming from. Sometimes the nonprofit brings in the coach, and that's on that, like the
Mhm.
not the nonprofit's world. So we're not
Mhm.
actually paying out of pocket for that.
Got it.
I think the only and time where it can cost more is there are some people who might move at a different pace. And if they're moving a little more slowly, and let's just say they're packing slime, they might not pack
As
eight,
much.
80 slimes every 30 minutes. But I think that it's too important for us to worry about that bottom line. It's not that big of a difference. And where the big difference is the universe goodwill of like
Mhm.
what we're giving. I think it's a gift
Mhm.
to have that experience of working alongside somebody who shows you a different way of thinking and being and accepting
Mhm.
and patience and
Mhm.
empathy, or so that for us it's really important. And the other thing is like when you're doing that, you also build a lot of loyalty, because
Mhm.
not
Yes.
everybody is going to be as welcoming.
Yeah.
We had somebody who once said to us, I've I've always had people who didn't hire me because of my neurodiversity,
Mhm.
and I thought people should hire me actually because of my autism, and I'm so detail oriented, and I
Mhm.
count everything, and I might be slower, but I don't miss any details. And we're like,
Wow.
that's the beauty of you.
Yeah.
And they feel seen, and that's amazing, because we're living in a world where we're all waking up in the universe and saying like, I don't feel seen, I don't feel seen, and being seen is important.
I love that. I love that. All right. So switching gears a little bit, when you came up with this idea, you and Sarah came up with this idea. From what I read, it was supposed to originally just be a pop up, right?
Yeah, we imagined we would open New York as a 6-month pop-up.
And then when did you realize that it was going to be a long term experience?
I know this sounds crazy, but day one,
Wow.
our ticketing platform accidentally oversold our tickets
Oh
by
gosh.
100%. So the day we were supposed to have like 1,500 people, we had 3,000.
Wow.
And we were literally like, we're going to need a bigger boat. And during the pandemic, when we had to close, and we pivoted with all kind of digital experiences and doing things online with kids and adults and corporate. But we said, let's go back to our landlord, let's negotiate 5 more years, this is the time to do it, and
Right.
let's now build out a larger business strategy.
How long were you guys open before COVID hit and you had to shut down?
4.5 months.
Oh wow. And
I
then
know
and then how long were you closed for physically?
that whole period of time is such a blur, but
Yeah.
we were closed until we were allowed to open. And when we were allowed to open, first it was just the shop, right? Not the
Mm,
experience.
mm,
Then, like, it was you can open to 20% capacity. I mean, you can't pay a full rent on that
right, right.
capacity. So but we opened, and then it became 40%. And then then there were some shutdowns again. And then it was back open. So we just went along with everything we could go along with, following all the regulations and the rules. But we just knew it would come back. And we
Mhm,
knew that um, it would be needed more than ever because
mhm,
we gotta get off our screens,
mhm.
right?
Yeah, that was
The digital addiction
yeah.
is so real. So we're this universe of touching, and there's hand wipes everywhere. Like, we keep it clean, but we're this sensory universe of touching and listening
Mhm,
and smelling and the visual, and that's something that you everybody lacked during that time.
mhm, mhm. And speaking of that sensory experience, there's a lot of technology that I want you to talk about that has been integrated into the Sloomoo experience. How do you balance that innovation while keeping true to the sort of analog part of the experience and the essence of what Sloomoo is? I mean, you could say it's easy because it's slime and it's of course it's supposed to be touched, but people are always looking for a wow moment, and you can get carried away with having the CGI character and all those things. How do you find that balance?
90% of what we do is really, really based in analog,
Mm,
but some of it has some digital powering what's behind it. Um, and one thing we're going to be removing from all of our spaces and adding something new, like we have this immersive video room that it's like very slimy and hashtag satisfying from a visual perspective. And we in New York, we just took it out and brought in two new analog experiences,
okay,
but we're building something right now that will launch in the end of June, and it's about touching slime that's in a copper bowl because copper is a conductor, and there's a capacitor it like built into the bowl, and because our skin is made of essentially we're full of water. You
mm,
touch the slime and it triggers sounds. So it's turning slime into the equivalent of a 10 instrument like DJ
cool.
laying down tracks.
Mhm,
So the technology is powering it, but you're actually going in and it's an analog thing that powers technology. So we are trying to look at things that way, because when we have something that's all tech, it usually doesn't last that long in our
mm,
spaces. And
interesting.
then we have to think how we have to do this a little differently. And these are the lessons we've learned the hard way.
And how do you come up with the experiences, how and changing them out, and how do you come up with these ideas?
Sarah and I just sometimes sit in a room and we talk about like what would be the most insane, crazy thing to do. How can we evolve? How can we think differently? What is inspiring us? And then when we think of something, we're like, how does it check? Is it delivering joy? Is there senses? Are you touching? Are you seeing? Are you feeling? Are you listening? Like, what are you triggering?
Mm,
Um, would you put your phone down to get into this?
mm,
And um, you know, can the whole family enjoy it? Can everybody understand it? Like, we have to kind of go through those series of questions.
yeah.
We work really well with our architectural design team called Method Design. From day one, they were with us sketching everything out. I have the first napkin sketch
Wow.
that we did at dinner together, where we came up with all the experiences just sitting there. We
Mm.
were like, what if you could slingshot slime? What if you could walk on slime? Like, we were just riffing on what are the things you can't do at home. So that's how. And now we've got great team members and thought partners and fabricators that we also work with in order to help us think bigger, or we'll give them one idea and then we'll say like, I know this could be possible, like how do you bring this to life? And then they
Mm,
might come back from an industrial engineering perspective, and then we layer in with our architecture team and design team, then how does it kind of convey the visual identity of what Sloomoo was about, and being like sophisticated and sinuous and um playful and architecturally like contemporary, and not feel like it's just a schlocky kids thing,
mm, mm.
appeal to adults,
Right.
and do all of the other elements. And it takes time. Like, these things don't happen overnight. The sound one we've been working on for 8 months, and we'll finally kind of have it brought to life at the end of June.
Wow.
Then it's coming up with, what are you going to call it?
Right.
So we have a world of characters that are in the Sloomoo-verse, and we have one character called Boom, and Boom is a dancer and like personified disco ball. So we're calling it Boom's Boom Boom Boogie Room. And the person who came up with that name is actually our facilities supervisor, who goes to all the experiences and maintains our IP of, the dispensers and all the things that we do that we've developed. And that's her role. And she came up with Boom's Boom Boom Boogie Room.
How often are you changing out the experiences in each location? Do you guys have like a set time frame, like every 6 months we've got to refresh?
No, mostly because it's really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
We refresh, obviously we refresh our slime constantly. So there's, and we always say that there's over 4 million reasons to come back, because there's 4 million plus unique combinations to make it our DIY bar.
Right.
So there's always this desire to come back. And also all the slimes are different. The scents are different. The textures are different. We bring in programming. So Mental Health Month will bring in something that's around mindfulness and sound baths, or, meditation. If it's Grandparents' Day, we'll turn it into a month of like intergenerational play appreciation, and have like craft corners of doing something that might be making a card for your grandparent. So we look at programming and other partnerships that we could bring something in, versus changing out an entire installation, because changing out an entire installation is literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the biggest lesson I've learned is the level of durability we need.
Okay.
If somebody can rip something apart, they will find a way.
Right.
So how do we make this indestructible?
Yeah.
That's the key for us, and that's expensive.
Yeah, you talk about the financial part of it. What would you say for brands that want to create immersive experiences? They're probably not going to be as enduring as a Sloomoo, but they don't have these big budgets to create them, but they have big ideas.
I think you should invest in what will people remember. So when we moved into our New York space, we inherited, thank God, we inherited great terrazzo floors. We inherited very average lighting. And we were like, we can't spend $1 million
right on the build
to
out,
make this stage lighting, to make this theatrical. We have to do it like the slime is the star. So spend in the places that will impact. Do less well versus doing everything. What has somebody not seen before? I think a straight up Instagrammable moment is not experiential, nor is that immersive.
Yeah.
It's a photo, right? We want to be more than a photo. We want to be like an actual memory versus like, remember this with a photo? Like, we want to be like, you smell something and you're like, that reminds me of Sloomoo. I'm not kidding. One of the best experiences that I've had in the world outside of work was, I am actually wearing it right now. I don't know. This is my Sloomoo charm that is attached to my jeans. So I was wearing that, and on a Saturday, I walked into an art gallery, and a little girl ran up to me screaming Sloomoo, and hugged my bag charm. And her mother was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. She doesn't understand personal space yet. And I was like, oh, I don't care. Are you kidding? Like, that's actually my business. Like, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. I gave her my name and number and was like, if you want to come back, I will show you the kitchen. I will give her an extra slime. It was so amazing. And that's when you've created something that someone remembers. And it didn't matter that I didn't have great lighting.
And that's joy. That is joy personified. I know we've got to wrap up, so I have a couple of other quick questions for you. Besides, that kind of anecdotal experiences that you get and interactions with guests, do you guys track any specific metrics to understand how certain installations are resonating with people, or are you able to track in some way or quantify the way that you guys are creating memories?
We obviously do post-visit emails and have an NPS score, and we send in mystery shops So we have people going into the experience all the time with their own little checklist to get back to us. And, we, in a lot of times we'd say, oh, are you retracking repeat visitors? But the kind of uh, obstacle we have is that some kid could come 8 times, but come with 8 different adults.
Mm.
And we would track that as 8 different visits. Then suddenly your mom is coming back and buying tickets with a different email. And then suddenly they're going to 2 different birthday parties. And then one day they're going with their best friend. And then one day they may be going with their uncle or their aunt or their dad. So suddenly somebody who's been 4 times or 8 times or 6 times, we're seeing it as 6 different visits versus the same.
Yeah.
You can't obviously get information and data on people under 13, COPA laws. So that's an area where we say we might track 10 to 15% repeat, but we actually know it's more like 20 when we hear anecdotally. And we know somebody has come to all of the experiences and all of our cities, but when we see the mother's email, we're like, oh, I can only track them to 2. That means the other 3 were purchased by somebody else's email.
Right.
So that's really tricky. But at the same time, I know we understand the health of our business and we're constantly looking at that. And then again, it's NPS is the way that we can actually formally track it. I'm not putting in the technology of, oh, let's heat map and see where they're lingering. Are they staying more here or over here? I think I can get that anecdotally right now. And I don't think that that's the use of our money.
Okay.
Because we don't have huge budgets.
Right. What has been the hardest part about this phase of your entrepreneurial journey? Because it sounds like, Sloomoo is a rocket ship and it just keeps going from strength to strength. But as entrepreneurs, there's ups and downs. That's life. That's reality. What's been the hardest part for you?
I have days on the floor where I'm like, is this happening? But I think honestly, staff is really hard. We're in a challenging environment. When you think about somebody who is at Lake Sloomoo as an example, and I've used that example earlier, that's a really upbeat moment where it's like, welcome to Lake Sloomoo. This is where our character Sloomoo vacations. It's 500 gallons of cloud slime. And it's really amazing to walk, and you have to wipe your feet with alcohol and you walk on slime. If your kid just walks across and plays with slime and walks on the slime, goes through, and we have a little mini obstacle course, it's really fun. If your kid has got a slime, we call them slime tenders. If a slime tender is there being like, freeze, in the middle of walking across it, go, freeze, or timing them in the obstacle course and playing with them or saying, I'm putting squishies down, the slime is lava, that's an even better experience.
Right.
So now imagine somebody who is there for 6 hours and they're doing that 300 times. It's easy to lose your energy.
Yeah.
So if you're the 300th person coming in to do that, it's your first time experiencing it. So you want all the jazz hands. It might be that person's 300th time.
Right.
And it's really hard to muster up those jazz hands. But I'm like, that's the role. So make sure you're taking your breaks when you have them. Make sure you're swapping out, and that's from a general manager perspective, they're managing that. But on a human level, it's human nature to have sometimes a bad moment.
Right.
When somebody has a bad moment with a guest, it's difficult. They've paid for it. That's not acceptable.
Yeah.
But it's hard to go back to somebody and say, that's not acceptable.
Right.
You're human also. So that to me is really difficult. You have to really want to be in our world to be a contender. And I believe, we say to our slime tenders, your whole job is delivering joy.
Right.
How awesome is that? And when I see them when they're not actually quote unquote on and working, and they're still playing with the slime. So I'm like, you get to play with slime all day. You get to make bubbles with people. I know that you're going to have challenging guests also, because everyone's human.
Yeah.
But I think that's the most difficult part. And it's really difficult when, there's just an enormous crowd coming in, and then you have a school group coming in and they're 45 minutes late. And now it's clogging the experience that everybody else has paid for. And then you have to say to the school group, we talked about this, we can't have you come in because now I have another 300 people here. And it's not a good experience for anybody.
Buddy.
But then you've got crying kids on the school bus. Like these are real like human moments that you have to figure out.
Right. Yes, dealing with the public is not an easy job at all.
Yeah.
What does the Sloomoo universe look like in the next 5 years? Because we didn't even get to talk about all of the products that you guys made and all of the AR experience. Like, you're gonna have to come back because there's so much more.
I would love to anytime. I have fun with you. So we're working on opening many more spaces. So we're looking at real estate across the country. We're working on a licensing deal to bring Sloomoo to the Middle East. We're working on a world of our IP. So taking our character Sloomoo, who has a host of friends and family. And I don't know if you remember from the New York days, Melissa Dela Cruz, who I wrote my books with.
Yes.
She went on to become this unbelievable world-class best-selling YA novelist. She wrote The Descendants for Disney. She's writing the Sloomoo narrative of how we bring Sloomoo to life, and what would the Sloomoo character origin story be? How do you tell stories that are really about inclusion and resilience and dealing with your emotions and connecting with other people and making friends in a way that isn't didactic but real.
Yeah.
So we're doing that with her and her husband / partner, Mike Johnston. So there will be a whole media universe to this too. This is
Amazing.
never ending. And then it's products and toy development, and it goes on and on.
That is amazing. Congratulations on all of your success. I know you got to run. My daughter thought it was so cool that I'm speaking to you today. She's 10 years old. Her best friend that lives down the road literally has a garage full of slime that she makes, and the two of them get together on the weekends and concoct things. So last question for you. We ask all of our guests, who is having a moment? What is having a moment? Or where is having a moment?
Whew, I'm sure everybody right now is saying, I think the two biggest moments that are happening are Dochi and La Boo Boo. That's another toy-ish collectible moment.
What about La Boo Boo?
Oh.
I'll get into it. I gotta get into it.
That's another. I have become like weirdly. It's like a. I mean, bag charms are obviously like having a moment. Cute is having a moment.
Yeah.
There's this real need right now for cute, like squishy, lovey things that just make you smile.
There you go. I'm all for that because we need it.
Every which way on the planet.
Yeah, we need that.
Lisa and Jenny also having a moment.
Lisa and Jenny. I don't even know who that is. So clearly I need to get
Yeah.
I'm head down at the moment in my life. So we need to have another call so you can fill me in on all these moments that I need to get into.
Okay, we will.
Thank you so much, Karen. I know you have to go. We so appreciate your time and being here with us on Making the Moment. And we can't wait to talk to you again and have you back.
Okay.
Bye, hon.
Bye.
Bye. Karen, thank you so much for this incredible conversation and for all the work you do to make the world a more playful, inclusive, and gooey place. If you haven't been to Sloomoo, make sure that you put it on your cultural bucket list. And if you're building brand experiences, I hope you use your notes from today's masterclass and put them to great use. Whether you're dreaming up your next pop-up or rethinking retail, this was a great reminder that joy is a strategy. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share this episode with a fellow culture shaper. And until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and don't be afraid to make your mark and make the moment.